At the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, the United States leading by 20 points as we get ready for the start of the third quarter. First, a look at the McDonald's first half numbers. And Bill, a pretty decent shooting percentage, well over 50% from the field.
And only 30%, 33% for Venezuela. But the three-point shooting, both teams shooting about the same percentage, but more attempts by the United States. That's very advantageous. Rebounds, a very close rebound battle of the boards there, but the 11 turnovers for Venezuela has really haunted them this evening.
And a lot of those turnovers leading to fast break points at the other end for the United States in transition. The leading scorer for the United States after the first half, Carmelo Anthony with 11. Kobe Bryant with 7 points. To go along with 5 assists, LeBron James also with 7 points, and Amari Stoudemire also with 7 points.
For Venezuela, the leading scorers, Vasquez with 9, Romero with 8, and Vargas with 6. But the USA team really, this was a symphony orchestra tonight in the first half, with fast break opportunities time and time again, keyed by Jason Kidd, the fantastic finishes, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony. All 11 players who got in there made a marked contribution for Jerry Colangelo. Tyson Chandler, the only member of the United States roster that did not get in the opening 20 minutes.
Mike Krzyzewski going with the same starting 5 that began the game. Kobe Bryant with a nice yo-yo move and a sweet pivot for the jump shot. Kobe now with 9 in the game, and Mike Krzyzewski going with Kidd, Kobe in the backcourt, Dwight Howard in the middle, LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony on the wings for the United States.
That halftime piece really pointed out what we have learned from watching this team play, is that Kobe Bryant is driving the train. A highlight film opportunity there for the United States in transition. LeBron James unable to deliver.
That pass might have been just a little bit high. Kobe a touch off the mark.
High and outside. But Kobe's not usually throwing that pass. Although he did throw one to Shaq when they beat Sacramento that year.
Carmelo Anthony with the slam dunk, and Melo now with 13 points in the ball game.
There's just no defensive resistance whatsoever by Venezuela.
Not only are they extremely young, Dwight Howard just spanked that one. And LeBron toying with Vasquez for the layup.
Toying is the correct word. And as we look at the United States' largest margin of victory ever in FIBA America's Championship was 1992 when they beat Cuba by 79, which was actually the largest margin of victory ever for the United States in international competition.
There's no mercy rule in FIBA, right?
No.
I had to ask. Dwight Howard with the goaltend. No, it's not your hand's fault, Dwight.
I think that's a good block. I completely disagree with the referee's interpretation.
Actually, they didn't call goaltend. My bad. And push underneath that wasn't called, and the stick back good by Barrios.
Throw it down in their face. What a pass by LeBron.
And Howard finishes at the other end. Dwight Howard was a perfect 9 for 9 in that inter-squad scrimmage that they had a little bit earlier. And that foul going to go against the United States as Barrios drove it to the basket. Barrios going to the free throw line. He averaged 8 points a game to go along with 3 rebounds per game in the World Championships last summer. Venezuela finishing well down the rung, finishing 21st.
Well, Barrios is a decent shooter, and his size can really cause some matchup problems at the small forward position, particularly if he can add some more defense and continuity to his game. Salazar trying to come up with some sort of menu here that would allow his team to get back into this game, now trailing by a incalculable margin from my vantage point.
Approaching 8 minutes to go here, just underway here in the third quarter of play. Jason Kidd out top.
Oh, that was a lob pass to Carmelo.
Not sure if he meant to bank that, but Kobe Bryant with the rebound underneath and gets fouled. Bryant going to go to the foul line.
We've been talking about Kobe's nutritional change and the loss of the 18 pounds.
And the Pilates he's been doing.
Never discount the impact on your health of nutrition and your lifestyle. And as these young men get older, Kobe, 29 now, or you said tomorrow is his birthday?
Well, Thursday, East Coast time, yeah.
In these middle of the night games, I can never figure out what day it is.
Okay, he's 29 as of now.
Thank you, Mark. But last year, I never thought Kobe was overweight. I never thought it slowed him down. It's going to be fun to watch this year, the Lakers, to see how much different game he plays. But the real challenge for the Lakers is what superstar player are they going to eventually be able to bring in? And
there was a lot
shockingly, none of those players has forced their way to the Lakers.
Carmelo with the slam over the top of Barrios. Off the feed from Jason Kidd, and Carmelo now with 15 points in the game on 6 of 12 shooting. He and Kobe both in double figures, and here's LeBron looking to join the party. LeBron ready for takeoff.
The Sports Center shots are being lined up as we speak.
Grab a couple of screensavers off of these shots as well. United States with some good overplay on the wings. Defense that John Wooden would be proud of, except on that last sequence, the basket good by Barrios.
Coach Wooden, 96 years of age now, never coached the United States national team.
Interesting bit of trivia on the foul there. That was Romero getting whistled as the perpetrator. One more look at the anticipation and the finish by James.
So when I watch this, I can only think of Angel Falls in Venezuela, which is the world's highest waterfall at over 3,000 feet. That is a big waterfall, and that was a throwdown from way above. Angel Falls.
Back with more after this. Let's take a look at our halftime highlights presented by AT&T. LeBron in transition is lethal, Bill Walton.
It has been an up and down performance. Up and down the court, that is, and using the trampoline per se to throw it down. Kobe Bryant kicking ahead time and time again, but LeBron James is just having the time of his life here, and he better enjoy this, because with Cleveland not making any moves whatsoever, the inability to sign or unwillingness to sign Anderson Varejao to a new contract, and you got Boston with Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen coming in, you got Chicago getting ever better, Orlando getting Rashard Lewis. LeBron James going to say, how are we ever going to get back to the finals if we don't make some changes? Because things really didn't go well that last 10 days of the NBA playoffs. With Krzyzewski, he looks like he's losing this game. I mean, at what point do you get to have a little bit of fun?
Well, Mike Krzyzewski going to find which combinations work and which ones don't, and maybe with an eye ahead to some of the tougher matchups during this tournament, which will probably come against the likes of Brazil and Argentina. Brazil defeating Canada in a game earlier here in the game before this one. The ball knocked away, and it's a 3-on-2. Anthony over to LeBron. Uruguay coming up winners over Panama in overtime. Here's Kobe.
And then Mexico beat Puerto Rico with Carlos Arroyo having a nightmare performance. Very difficult shot. They're calling a blocked shot off the back of the standard. Kobe can't believe it. I go to the line on that play. Come on.
Well, he does in the NBA, but a lot of times in FIBA basketball, there are other factors at work which don't lead to guys getting calls like that, so they just decide to do it from outside like Kobe does, now leading by 30. Kobe Bryant into double figures.
And Jason Kidd just controlling the pace, anchoring the defense, just dictating all the switches. Never gets beat on penetration, and then blocks the shot defensively. Jason Kidd, remarkable.
You see that a lot against the United States, Bill, in FIBA basketball, where teams will invariably commit a foul and not give the Americans a chance to get something in transition.
And that's good basketball, because the USA guys, they're coming down the court to throw it down. They're not coming down to make a little bit of a layup, and that's what the fans are get so charged up about. So if you see a guy in transition, just grab him and foul him. Oh, Carmelo Anthony bullying his way to the hoop.
Carmelo Anthony a couple of seasons ago really got his body in shape with the help of his trainer, Steve Hess, the strength and conditioning coach with the Denver Nuggets. I can remember hearing that the day after they were eliminated from the playoffs a couple of seasons ago, Carmelo called up Steve Hess and said, hey, let's go. They went out for a long run through the hills of the city of Denver, and from that point on it was all business for Carmelo. Which followed was the World Championships, and really became the leader of the team last year. He was the best player on the floor for the United States in the World Championships last season, and with that he garnered a lot of respect and clout in the basketball universe.
Well, we know Steve from all our trips to the Mile High City there, and he's one of those guys who is just such an inspirational force that any time spent in his presence just makes you feel better about life. And look how Carmelo just races that ball with the up the court inbound pass, but wildly thrown to the other team.
Jump shot off the mark by Vasquez, and now the United States in transition again. Bryant.
But since Carmelo has been playing for the national team, this is just too easy.
Kobe missed the layup. Dwight Howard had his shot goaltended.
Wherever we go with Carmelo, and no matter the level of the competition, he invariably separates himself from everybody else as maybe the most natural player, the guy that just has that ability to make the passes, the correct decisions, grab the rebounds, finish in transition, create in the set offense.
Here's the jump shot from Vargas outside off the mark.
Oh, what a rebound.
Dwight Howard with a strong pull, and Jason Kidd looking to make something happen. Carmelo from downtown. A lot of contact underneath. Dwight Howard banging underneath with Vargas as Billups gets set to check into the ball game.
Mark, the USA's perimeter shooting has not been that good. Yes, Miller came in, Red came in, they made some shots, but the rest of the guys have not been knocking it down. So they've just been taking it to the hoop, and there's been no resistance whatsoever, either denying penetration or meeting the Americans at the rim.
At some point, Bill, on the road to Beijing, less than a year away now, the United States is going to have to show the propensity to knock down three-point and or perimeter jump shots. And you know, in the one bad game they had against Greece last year, up until that point they'd actually shot the ball pretty well from downtown. Well, coming up tomorrow, Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern time, it's the U.S. Virgin Islands on the menu. Saturday, the United States against Canada at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Then Sunday against Brazil. That Brazil game should be a very compelling and intriguing matchup.
Well, Brazil, one of the favorites in this FIBA Americas tournament. Brazil ranked, though, only 17th in the entire world rankings. And while we talked earlier about Venezuela being number 21 in terms of the international rankings, tomorrow night's opponent, the Virgin Islands, they're ranked 38th.
Everybody still with thoughts of getting one of those two spots, though, as Stoudemire fouled going to the bucket. You know, you could be 38 or whatever the U.S. Virgin Islands are, Bill, but everyone with hallucinogenic optimism coming into the tournament. What do you think about that term?
I like it. Maybe you can explain to me what it means, but it sure sounds good.
Prince,
who would have ever thought that Greece would beat the United States?
Well, there you go.
Watch that game, and Vasilis Spanoulis comes out and hits his first 10 shots. The Greece national team plays like Villanova played in the '85 NCAA championship against Georgetown. Just perfect basketball, and that's what makes the one and out scenario so entertaining and so exciting. And all the guys here on this U.S. national team were talking at the halftime feature about how stressful, how pressure-packed that is. And I think that's good. I like it.
One and done. And in particular, what was troubling in that loss against Greece was the pick-and-roll defense. And Sofoklis Shortinitis, who really killed the Americans with his bulk and his size inside. No such problem tonight with the lack of size on Venezuela's part inside. Now they kick it out.
And I'm shocked by Nestor Salazar, the coach of Venezuela, who has yet to pack it in defensively. Just say, you know, there are no illegal defense rules in international basketball. You do what you want out there.
Phillips turns it over. Now here's Venezuela in transition, coming up short. Tayshaun Prince with the rebound.
We still haven't seen Tyson Chandler, so we're just going to have to get a report. Wouldn't be surprised if he's injured tonight.
Chandler giving the team a little bit of a shot blocking. Here's LeBron James on the drive. James can't finish. These teams, 10 of them in all here at the Tournament of the Americas, playing for 2 spots to the Beijing Games, now just 11.5 months away.
Well, there are plenty of opportunities to qualify. Only 3 teams have qualified for the Olympics as of this moment.
The host nation, China, being one. And Spain as the
won the last world champion
in the World Championships. And Iran won the Asia Zone Championship,
which China did not have to play in because they're already into the Olympics.
LeBron James taking a seat with 3:10 to go in the third quarter. FIBA Europe playing its championship coming up beginning September the 3rd, and Spain, the defending champs, and the host nation for those FIBA Europe championships. An interesting story out of Toronto is that Jorge Garbajosa has still not been medically cleared to play for the Spanish teams. He plays with the Raptors during the NBA season.
Well, there's a lot of reasons that players are not participating in this, including the story of the guy from Cleveland who was
Varejao?
Yeah, Anderson Varejao. Now, nationalism, you know, is very important, but capitalism sometimes trumps all.
Got to have your mind on your money and your money on your mind sometimes. 81-45. Stoudemire clears the rebound. Billups in a rush for the United States. Mike Miller wide open, 3-point shooting at a premium, and he drills it.
Well, the quick release of Mike Miller, and even the fastest guy in the world couldn't have tracked him down in that short corner. And the fact that this line is so much closer, I mean, what, 3 feet closer?
At its shortest point, it is 3 feet, more than 3 feet closer than the NBA three-point line at 23 feet 9 inches, the NBA, and internationally, well, a little over 20. It's 20 feet 6 inches.
Fortunately, the college game, Mark, after next season is going to lengthen their line out to a much more realistic distance. But I've always been amazed when they make these decisions to do something, and they say, well, we made the decision today, but let's not do it for another couple of years. I mean, why not? What are they waiting for?
Mike Miller with a sweet-looking stroke
or something.
Miller with a 3-point ball from the corner there. Mike Miller, the 6th man of the year a couple of seasons ago. This actually isn't his first appearance in a USA jersey. He played on the Goodwill Games team back in 2001, which won gold down in Brisbane, Australia.
I sure hope Memphis can get it going. I mean, those loyal fans there, they're just dying for something really good to happen. And Jerry West is retired, but
they got Juan Carlos Navarro now.
And they bring in Darko Milicic. They got Mark Ivaroni as a new coach. We'll have to see how that plays out. Now, Ivaroni, one of 7 new coaches in the NBA this year.
And Mari Stoudemire just spanked that back at Venezuela. Tayshaun Prince off the nice feed from Billups. And this is looking more and more like a layup drill right now for the United States, leading by 40 points with 1:13 to go in the third quarter. So what are the petroleum prices doing in Venezuela these days?
They're very high. Venezuela was one of the original members of OPEC, a careless, lazy,
I knew you'd know that.
Top pass, but
Mike Miller with the flush.
80% of the gross domestic product in Venezuela is based on their petroleum exports. And Hugo Chavez has done a job of just feeding the poor people, educating the poor people there.
Here's one more look at the defense. Good help. Amari Stoudemire coming over. His nickname, self-professed Stat, standing tall and talented. That's what the acronym stands for. And Tayshaun Prince with the slam at the other end in transition.
But
It's all applause.
Hugo Chavez back in the news again today. He's trying to rewrite the Constitution down there, the rise of the imperial sovereign. These guys, they get in there and they don't like giving it up. Sort of like some of the players with the ball.
It's not about FIBA rules. It's about his rules, isn't it? 92 to 48.
It's my way or the highway. If you don't like what we say, we're going to bring democracy to you.
Long ball good that time by Palacio. 92 to 51. The United States hoping to join Brazil, Uruguay, and Mexico, all winners today. Argentina with the day off, and the Virgin Islands, the USA's opponent tomorrow. Game you'll see at 11 o'clock right here on ESPN. And 2, they also had the day off. Nestor Salazar, the coach of Venezuela, not finding many answers today.
Good that the Virgin Islands will be well rested for tomorrow night's game.
They might need it. Facing Kobe and crew. Back with more right after this. The Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, the scene of the Tournament of the Americas. 10 teams competing, playing over 40-some games during the last couple of weeks, with 2 spots to the Olympics on the line. And let's take a look at our higher player of the game, and play of the game, actually. Kobe Bryant with the flush off the nice around-the-world feed from LeBron James.
What was so wonderful about that, though, Mark, was that, like Coach Krzyzewski said in the halftime feature, it's all about the team. And 4 players touched the ball, and literally every one of their plays was successively more impressive, finally, with Kobe throwing it down.
Well, they've gone to a new formula. It's no longer just a conglomerate of a group of all-stars. They have picked this team out of a pool of some 30-odd players to try and find just the right mix, and it's given Jerry Colangelo, the manager of the team, the versatility that, you know, when you take into account injuries and certain other financial considerations with contracts and stuff, you have the flexibility built in to make up for a missing body or two. Off the miss, Tayshaun Prince. And Michael Redd finishing at the other end.
One of the great things about this coaching staff, anchored by Krzyzewski, is that there are no mind games. Krzyzewski is such a positive team builder. It's one of the reasons why he's one of the most dynamic forces on the public speaking circuit. Why all the players and all their parents want their children to go to Duke University. And with the problems that the United States has had in the recent international competitions, Jerry Colangelo said, you know, we got to get a guy who's not going to be picking on little stuff and not going to be whining and complaining and making excuses, and let's get this job done and be upbeat and constructive about it. And that just is the definition of Mike Krzyzewski, and our hats go off to all these guys. Mike
Krzyzewski, the leader of this team, and Tyson Chandler couldn't find the handle there. Here's Michael Redd.
Tyson, not much of an offensive force in his NBA career.
Darren Williams off the mark, and Darren Williams, by all accounts, some of the coaches I've been able to speak to, has had a very good training camp session. He's the 3rd point guard. That's the only problem, is that he might get squeezed for minutes a little bit. But right now behind Jason Kidd and Chauncey Billups.
But the learning experience and the opportunity to be on a special team, take that back to Utah, down the line as Jason Kidd gets older, as Chauncey Billups gets older, then Darren Williams said, okay, now it's my turn. But Darren Williams is not as tall and not as broad shoulders as Chauncey and Jason.
That shot off the mark. Miller controls the rebound. You saw Kobe Bryant getting iced down. Looks like he's probably done for the night. Mike Miller from downtown missed everything.
Well, Miller, one of 6 United States players in double figures, led by Carmelo Anthony. Kobe's there. LeBron is there. Amari Stoudemire is one of them in double figures.
Williams and Tyson Chandler running the pick and roll. Williams finishing with the layup. And in the pick and roll game, I've heard a good number of the American players, Bill, say that internationally, if you're setting the pick on the pick and roll, you can roll your man right to the basket. That's not a foul in FIBA. In the NBA, it is.
Well, generally, those type of plays work really well in football.
Prince with the rebound.
But this is a game that actually has rules, basketball. where the object is not to just line up and smash into the other guy.
Officiating, always interesting, a bit of an adventure at the FIBA level.
Speaking of officiating, the NBA, every member of the sporting world has a lot to work on with this Tim Donaghy situation.
Yes, Tim Donaghy recently pleading guilty to conspiracy, wire fraud, and transmitting wagering information through interstate commerce. That's 2 felonies on the docket for him, facing a possible maximum of 25 years in prison.
Good. I hope he gets a very severe sentence, because this is a travesty and a tragedy. And the trust and the sacred covenant between the fans and the players and the game itself, that is what's at stake here. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
40 years ago when I was a teenager, we had the summer of love. This summer, it's been the summer of madness with Michael Vick and the steroid problem.
A lot of tumult on the sports landscape
Donaghy,
right now.
The Tour de Farce. And it just...
Donaghy will be sentenced on November the 9th. That day circled on a lot of calendars.
A lot of sentencing going around.
Yes.
And this is not English composition either.
97-51. Miller with the rebound. Chandler now says, I'll take it. At this point, Bill, geez, what do you even work on?
You work on ball movement. You work on team chemistry. You work on the fact that these fans have paid their hard-earned money, the viewing audience on ESPN, they've invested time of their life in this, and you got a responsibility, a professional responsibility to put on a quality show and product here.
Approaching 6.5 minutes to go, and you talk about establishing a little bit of chemistry. Chemistry going to be the buzzword around Boston as Michael Redd drives the baseline, as the Celtics pulling off the big trade to acquire Kevin Garnett, adding him to Ray Allen, who was sent to Boston from Seattle a little ways before that. And boy, they have 3 new significant pieces now.
Celtics are back, and it's about time.
And I say new because Paul Pierce has been reinvigorated by the addition of those 2 players. Tyson Chandler couldn't find the handle out of bounds.
You've got the Celtics back. You've got the Blazers back. The UCLA Bruins have been in the NCAA Final Four the last 2 years. Order has been restored in the universe.
I knew you'd get a UCLA reference in there somewhere. And there's a look at the scene on the dais. August 2nd, KG sporting the green number 5, Ray Allen and Paul Pierce.
Look at how happy they all are. They're kissing the jerseys. They're smiling. When was the last time you saw a Celtic player smiling?
But what do they add? What does Doc Rivers and Danny Ainge have to work with those 3?
That's the least of their worries. They got those 3, and that's a great place to start.
Eddie House, a recent acquisition for the Celtics.
Don't forget Scott Pollard. But the real question for the Celtics, will Danny Ainge and Doc Rivers be able to convince Kevin Garnett that he has to play center? Because that is the way it's going to work. And what they have to do is have Ainge and Rivers walk out onto the court with Kevin Garnett, with nobody else in the entire Garden, and point up to the rafters and say, see that number 6 up there? And you see all those championship banners up there? There's a relationship between those 2 things. And he played center, and you have the capability to do that as well.
Bill, they gave up a lot to get Kevin Garnett. Al Jefferson, the feeling is going to be a future star in the NBA.
He has a chance to be a good player. Kevin Garnett,
he made a quantum leap offensively, especially this year.
Al Jefferson is
I'd do the trade.
He's a good player.
I'd do the trade.
7 for 1, I'd throw in a lot more, too, to get Kevin Garnett. That guy is really good.
Well, people forget, just a couple of years ago, 2004, Kevin Garnett was the MVP in the NBA. Mr. Salazar still looking for some answers.
And that was the 1 year that he had real talent around him. He had Sprewell and Sam Cassell in the backcourt. Did you see the news about Sprewell today?
His boat being...
He took his boat. He didn't pay the bills. They took his boat. But that's not nearly as distressing as the news I saw about the Stephon Marbury interview.
Which was
today in the
Prince
New York
Michael Vick.
papers in support of Michael Vick and trying to defend Michael Vick, and that is an indefensible position. And I am shocked, stunned, and saddened, because that is true cruelty to a dog. Please.
I think
The summer of madness.
99-58, the United States with an extremely comfortable lead. Don't forget, tomorrow night at 11 o'clock, you can watch the United States team take on the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Can they play that game in the Virgin Islands?
Well, then that'd be a trip worth really making. Underneath, going to be a foul called against Amari Stoudemire. U.S. Virgin Islands. Toes in your sand and umbrella drinks. It's been that kind of day on the beach for the U.S. here. Back after this. A look at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. The United States leading comfortably 99-58. I'm Mark Jones along with Bill Walton. Time winding down here in the fourth quarter. Look at the big three numbers. Carmelo Anthony leading the way with 17 points. Kobe with 14. LeBron James with 11. Interesting when you see the powerful troika up there on the screen, Bill. A year ago at the World Championships, you substitute Dwayne Wade in for Kobe Bryant. The dynamic has changed a little bit with Kobe in the equation now. Do these guys now have to learn how to defer to him a little bit? Where do you see that going?
It's going to be totally different, Mark, because as we have traveled the globe with USA basketball over the last 5 or 6 years, Carmelo, LeBron, and Dwayne have developed a really close relationship. They're all the same age. They're all in the same draft. Kobe is much, much older than them, 6, 7 years older. And Kobe has always been a guy who has had trouble relating to his teammates. And now you have a scenario where they're trying to make it happen. You see maybe a concerted effort by Kobe Bryant to change some of the things, the comment that he made after the game-winning shot in the scrimmage, I'm all about the team, the way he has backed off a lot of the statements that were just so ludicrous in the summer, or in the spring, during the playoffs, where it had to be about him. So
Kobe's always been a little bit guarded about who he lets into his inner sanctum and circle, and I talked about Dwayne Wade not being in the picture this year. I had a chance to spend some time with Dwayne a couple of weeks ago down in South Florida, where we're both residents, although it doesn't take as many gates to get through my place as it does his. But he took a group of South Florida school kids shopping to buy them some back-to-school books and pens and pencils and rulers and protractors. And Dwayne says that his rehabilitation is going along very well. He is invariably and historically a very quick healer, and he had shoulder surgery as well as knee surgery in the offseason. That
he had a knee surgery too?
Yes, he did, and he actually says that he's a little bit more concerned about the knee than he is the shoulder, although he says both are pretty much on schedule right now, actually a little bit ahead of schedule. He envisions perhaps being back right around the start of the season, but it wouldn't be a surprise if Dwayne Wade wasn't back until maybe the middle of November for the Miami Heat.
Dwayne Wade and every injured player needs to take all the time that it takes to get better. Your body does not know the NBA schedule, which is brutal, which is relentless day after day. You're basically playing a game every other day for 9 months if you go all the way to the championship the way that Dwayne Wade plays. And then you play the international game. NBA basketball, and with the USA commitment, it's now year-round, and some of the guys just don't ever get any rest. LeBron James is a classic example. This guy's been playing a lot of basketball.
Amari Stoudemire with the free throw now has 14 points in the ball game, and what a year a difference has made with respect to injuries for Amari Stoudemire. Last year this time he was just on the comeback trail, a foul called underneath against Mike Miller. Stoudemire was on the rebound from that knee surgery, his second knee surgery in less than a year, and he was unable to play with the United States in the World Championships. But boy, what a season he had in bouncing back and showing great resilience.
And I'm so excited that Phoenix has Grant Hill. This is going to be great. And if Grant can play 15 to 25 minutes every night. That is going to change so much for Phoenix. He'll bring a totally new dynamic. He'll get some thought processes going in the front line there that will change what has recently been just nothing but raw athleticism of Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire. And if Boris Diaw can get his act back together and become the player that he was 2 years ago, then Phoenix might be able to really consider themselves a super special team. But the window for Steve Nash is closing. Yeah. You get older every day. You get older quick in this league.
Stoudemire, boy, that wasn't a Steve Nash dime that was dropped, but it was pretty good nonetheless from Tayshaun Prince as Stoudemire hammered it home. I said earlier that Stoudemire's goal this year is to be not only the most improved player in the NBA, but also the Finals MVP. And, you know, with no disrespect to the San Antonio Spurs, who deserved everything that they got this year and worked for, it might have been a different story had that suspension not played out the way it did. And those guys coming off the bench, Stoudemire and Diaw, and subsequently getting suspended for that game in the NBA playoffs.
I disagree with you there, Mark. I thought, first of all, the suspension was the right thing to do. They left the bench during a fight, and you can't do that. That's what the rule is.
Yep.
And then Tim Duncan and the entire San Antonio Spurs team is just so smart. I mean, they don't win because they're the biggest team, although they got a great giant player in Tim Duncan. They don't win because they're the fastest team, although they've got Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, who are lightning on the court. They win because they're the smartest team, and they're the most committed team. And our hats go off to them. Congratulations, Spurs.
Nice move inside, meanwhile, by Luis Belethemy from Venezuela. Kicked outside, Tayshaun Prince from downtown. And Tyson Chandler batting Hector Romero underneath. There's going to be a foul called in all the scuffling. It's going to go against Venezuela. That shorter three-point line has still been a little bit of the bane of the United States' existence. That time you saw Tayshaun Prince unable to make the three-point shot.
And the Americans have been lulled in to just, well, we get whatever we want in the basket.
It can be intoxicating, can it?
Absolutely. But they're winning this game by 40 points and have not shot the ball well from the perimeter. So where is the self-motivation? And that's where the greatest of champions come from.
And as we say that, Bill, Michael Redd knocks down a three-pointer.
Just before, I mean, yesterday, the Michael Jordan adult basketball camp ended in Las Vegas. And it's just such a spectacular event. This year's guest speakers were Pat Riley and Bob Knight and all the Hall of Fame coaches that were there. And Michael Jordan, who still looks and plays as if he was back in the 90s, winning all the championships. And his level of self-motivation, that's what all of these guys need to do. And hopefully Michael has been able to talk to some of these guys about what it takes.
Free throw good by Hector Romero. Speaking of Michael Jordan, this is the 15th anniversary of the original Dream Team back in 1992. And I was watching on NBA TV a few days ago some performances by that team. And the interesting thing that struck me, Bill, was that those guys were a little further down the road in their respective NBA careers. They were all in their late 20s, early 30s. It was a very dominant team, but maybe because of the fact that they were very mature. You saw their record 8-0.
And that was the first exposure of NBA basketball, the world's greatest players, the world's top league. And the rest of the world had no idea how great all these players were, because they'd only played against each other in the NBA, and they never got to play in the international competition. So what David Stern and Boris Stankovic did in the late 80s to make this possible, it has just changed everything. So now you've got the most valuable player of the regular season, Dirk Nowitzki, international player. Tony Parker, NBA Finals MVP. International player. This thing is changing and changing fast.
Back with more right after this. United States firmly in control from the opening tip. 109-66 leaders with 1:56 to go here in the fourth quarter play. I'm Mark Jones along with Bill Walton. This is the first game on the docket for the United States. They will play each team in their own group, followed by crossover play. And it's been the big three that have gotten the job done tonight. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Carmelo Anthony.
The ball movement and then the spectacular finishing capabilities of these incredible stars who are showing the rest of the world just how dominant they are. Carmelo Anthony with the second effort, but this lead at one point was 46 points. 7 United States players are in double figures. Michael Redd and Amari Stoudemire each have 9 points in the second half, blowing it apart. But these three guys, this is the core of the team right here. And they've got Jason Kidd to pass him the ball. And you know, Jason Kidd is one of those players, Mark, who, like Steve Nash, like Magic Johnson, like Bill Russell, their only interest is in making the other players the star of the game.
Yeah, otherwise, been a pretty quiet night in the scoring department for Jason Kidd, but that's fine with him. That's his M.O. Tayshaun Prince inside to Tyson Chandler, trying to get him on the score sheet.
I was hoping for a little bit more from Venezuela, because this is really a remarkable country.
They're in the midst of a rebuilding project with their eyes not even towards so much the Olympics next summer, Bill, but looking ahead to the World Championships, which are going to be played in Turkey in several years.
That would be in 2010.
2010.
And the United States is part of the Europe Live 2007. The Minnesota Timberwolves, a team in a serious rebuilding mode themselves, they're going to be spending their training camp in Istanbul in early October.
They'll play against the Boston Celtics as part of the NBA Europe Live Tour.
Spain will be involved in that. London, Turkey.
And Mike Miller a little bit shaken up, limping off the court now. Going to call it a night. Keith Jones, the trainer for the Houston Rockets, attending to him.
Casey Smith at the Dallas Mavericks also working on this United States team as one of the athletic trainers. But that's the great thing about the depth of this roster. While the other teams, barely have a player who could even try out for the United States team, the United States has just an unbelievable talent pool to draw from.
As witnessed by the three-point shooting, the marksmanship, the dead-eye shooting of Michael Redd, who knocked down another three. The United States leading comfortably 112-67.
But just think of it. You've got a talent pool of our country's population of 300 million. The only country in the Western Hemisphere that even comes close to that is Brazil. And they have a very good squad.
They probably...
Verjao not playing.
Yeah. They, in all likelihood, will put up what will be the stiffest challenge to the United States here.
Well, particularly with Argentina not having at its disposal the great stars that they have.
Yes.
Ginobili, Oberto, Nociones.
And Carlos Delfino suffered a knee injury recently, although he says now that he will be able to play. And
that's why you don't take a charge.
Mike Miller was shaken up on that play. He came out of the game after that.
The old knee to the groin is one of the great tactical weapons in basketball.
Jump shot off the mark. 8 seconds to go. And the United States will join Brazil, Uruguay, and Mexico as winners on the opening day of this Tournament of Americas here in Las Vegas, as Mike Krzyzewski's team strolls to a 112-69 victory over the highly overmatched Venezuela squad. The United States with 7 players in double figures on their way to the win. We'll be back with more to wrap it up right after this. Back in Las Vegas at the Thomas & Mack Center, a look at the final numbers, 112-69. The most important ones, the United States, Bill, shooting 55% from the field. They had 7 different players in double figure scoring and winning pretty much every important category.
Dominant on the boards as well, plus 10 there, and forcing 20 turnovers for Venezuela, but with so many players in double figures, 7 players for the United States in double figures, led by Carmelo Anthony. He always seems to be there at the top. At the end of the day, Venezuela only with 2 guys in double figures. They couldn't get it done except for winning the opening tip.
Well, despite the big win, humility has been one of the great lessons to this U.S. team in the past. They'll play the U.S. Virgin Islands tomorrow, and join us for that game as they take on the Virgin Islands at 11 o'clock Eastern on Classic. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Bill Walton and our entire crew, I'm Mark Jones saying good night from Las Vegas. It was a slam dunk.